Come on, just keep praising God. Isn't He amazing? My name's J.J. Cox, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what God's done in my life. I began to find a love for art at the Smoky Mountain Winterfest in Knoxville. When I was your age, I saw someone use art to glorify God, and I said, I want to do that. I want to do that. And God is so good, and if you have a talent, God will use it if you let Him. Come on. So, I want to tell you a little bit about my testimony and just how good God is. When I was born, when most people were going to kindergarten, my mother and father were taking me to the doctor. I was born nonverbal, and they were trying to figure out what was wrong. And I remember the conversations because I was there, and the doctors looked at my parents and they said, it's like this. Your son has ADHD, and I tell everybody that's my superpower. To everybody that has it, can do 8 things at once, you know. But then they said your son has autism, and he followed it up by, this is as good as it gets. He's going to be in a special program the rest of his life. He'll be lucky if he can tie his shoes. In our family, that was the joke. He'll be lucky if he can tie his shoes. Then the doctor followed it up by, it's like this, Mr. Cox. All the lights are on, but nobody's home. And so I wanted you to know I had a father that was a pastor for 40-something years. And I remember the ride home, he looked around, he spoke life over me. He said, I know what the doctor said, and I know you hear me, but we're going to see what God has to say. So I want you to know the rest of the story, because this is how good God is. I went into a special program where they said, they basically put me into this program, and that was it. But in this program, I began to draw, color, and paint. And I had teachers that said, crayons, they're not doing it. Let's get them some art supplies. And I began to find a love for art in a place where the enemy said, look where you're at now. And God turned it around and used it for my good. Come on. And so, this is how good God is. I went through my life, and we went through, my family never stopped praying. And we went to church. And, I had, a pastor as a father, and we would have those services where, I was a pastor's kid. It just means we're a little bit meaner. You know what I mean? And we were in service, and I'd already gotten 6 whippings that night, and it wasn't doing any good. And my dad put me behind the drums, and then I began to listen, and I began to find a love for music and art and a voice when I didn't even have a voice. And so I want to tell you how good God is. The drummer wasn't there one night, and I sat down on the drums, and I began to play. We went back to the doctors, and he said, my son, who you said is not there, learned to play drums. And the doctor said, even a blind boy can play piano. I want to tell you, this is how good God is. I believe we have watch this God. When the world says never, God says, watch what I'm about to do. Come on. So my life went like this. The doctor said that even a blind boy could play piano. My father said, you're wrong. And he's going to play everything that the church needs. And that next year, they began to move me around, and they would put their hands over my hands and make chords, and put their hands over my hands on piano, and whatever the church needed, I began to play it, still not talking. And the doctor got so tired of hearing it from us that he would meet us in the parking lot and say, what's God doing now? Before we could come in. So God stripped away everything that the doctor was saying. Doctor said, he's still not talking. And I want you to know it. We were sitting down. I was 8 years old tuning my guitar. I had a little bitty guitar, and my dad was tuning it. And my first words were, you're out of tune. You're out of tune. That's how good God is. So I went into speech therapy. And we began to get letters home from the program I was in. He's an excellent young man, talks too much. He's an excellent young man. I can't talk because he's talking. And so the doctor told my parents, you know, even though he's talking, he's going to be in this program the rest of his life. He'll be lucky if he can tie his shoes. And I want you to know what happened. The teachers stood up and they said, you know, he doesn't need to be in this program. And the doctor said, the test said, my father said, test him again. I did all the tests where you're at on the spectrum. And I want you to know I never forgot the look on the doctor's face when he walked into the office and he said, Mr. Cox, we don't understand. And my dad stopped him and he said, me and his mother understand because we never stopped praying. We never stopped believing. He said, your son does not have autism. And not only that, it's like he never stopped learning. My dad said, put him in school. I got to go into 6th grade. I said, I get to go into an art program. And I was so excited. The doctor said, like we said, it's a bad idea. Even though he's talking, he'll be lucky if he can tie shoes. He'll never graduate. 7th grade rolled up. Doctor said the same thing. 8th grade came. The doctor said the same thing. We fired that doctor. Come on. 8th grade, 10th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and at my graduation. And you're not hearing me. At my graduation, I serve a God that says, watch this. Now see, something you don't know, God healed me from autism, but I still have a mischievous spirit. I don't know why. I like to play jokes. I like to have fun. So I invited my doctor, my old doctor, to my graduation. Come on. Oh. Watch this. So all my friends were there. My family was there. And I walked the stage and, you know, I got my diploma. I walked right past my parents and my mother said, where's he going? My dad knows me. He hung his head. He said, I know where he's going. And I went up to my doctor and I held up my diploma and I said, I graduated. He looked at me. He said, you're a statistic and I'm proud of you. And I looked at him and I said, sir, there's one more thing. I tied these shoes. See, we serve a God that's not interested in what the world tells you you are. We serve a God that's bigger than the diagnosis that the doctor says. See, don't let the world tell you who you are. Know who you are in Christ. Come on, give him a praise tonight. Thank you guys so much.